Good afternoon, everyone. It's Andy Deyell back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular Zoom series where we check in with our accomplished alumni all over the United States and all over the world, really. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by Jim Wolfe from the class of 1959. He's joining us today all the way from Santa Barbara, California. Jim is the retired CEO of Balance Bar, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his career and time, not only at Canisius, but afterwards. Jim, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Andy. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to have you and great to be visiting with you. Hope things are going well in California. Let's jump right into it. Let's go back a few years. Your class of 1959. Tell us a little bit about your sort of middle school experience, how you found out about Canisius and how you got to Canisius, and then tell us a little bit about your 4 years at 1180 Delaware.
Okay, great. I was one of 9 children, grew up in North Buffalo on Huntington Avenue, went to St. Margaret's School, and I was one of 7 boys. We had 2 girls, and then 7 boys and a girl in that order. And we all went to St. Margaret's. We all had paper routes. It was, how I learned about Canisius was a couple of ways. One, there was a basketball tournament. I played basketball in grammar school. And St. Margaret's, we had a team in the tournament when I was in 8th grade at Canisius. And I fell in love with the school, with the tournament there. It was just a beautiful auditorium. It wasn't the typical gymnasium by any means. And it was a great experience. It was a well-run tournament. I happened to do pretty well in the game that we played. And I also, 2 of my best friends from grammar school, they were planning to go to Canisius. Their dad had gone to Canisius many years previously. That would be Paul and Tom Sullivan. They both have passed away. And they both started at Canisius, but then the family moved to Maryland. Paul moved back to go to Canisius College, but they sort of got me interested. So they were the only, the 2 of them and then myself were the only one from St. Margaret's that went to Canisius High School. And it was a great decision, one of the best decisions I've ever made. I very much liked the school. I liked the setting. It was a beautiful campus. I liked the Jesuits. I felt that they treated everybody equally well, regardless of what kind of income you had, what neighborhood you came from. That was the nice thing about the school. We had kids from all over the Buffalo metropolitan area. And so you got to meet a lot of new kids and exposed to their background and their experiences and everything. And I very much enjoyed that. And it also showed a kid from North Buffalo, a family of 9. We didn't have a lot. We had certainly food, clothing, shelter, but a lot of times the clothing was handed down from an older brother or whatever. But we never felt that we were lacking for anything. And but it showed in going to Canisius that you could succeed, and the environment was there to succeed, regardless of your economic background or neighborhood background. The Jesuits treated Joe equally well. And I thought the kids all treated each other quite well. I didn't ever feel that I had less than somebody else or more than somebody else. You felt on equal footing. And so I enjoyed very much about the school. I did play basketball in my freshman year, JV and varsity. Enjoyed that. Connie McGillicuddy was the coach for the JV and the varsity. And he was also my Latin teacher for 3 of the 4 years I was there. And so I very much liked him. He was also the baseball coach at one time. He was the football coach too. John Barnes was the football coach at the time I was there. And so it was just a great experience. There was all sorts of extracurricular activities you could get involved in. I did get involved also in cross country in my senior year. It was sort of a requirement if you wanted to play basketball, you either had to play football or cross country to get in shape for the basketball season. It was a good decision because the cross country, it was something that I ended up doing a good part of the rest of my life. I became a runner, not a marathon runner, but I would run 10Ks, 5Ks in different places that we've lived since we moved from the area. And I felt it's kept me in good shape. As I've gotten a little older, a little past the running stage, I do a lot of hiking. And so I keep physically in shape. But the cross country and the basketball sure helped to set the stage for that.
That's great. And we're going to come back to Canisius High School in just a few minutes, but you've had a very accomplished and long career in the sort of the food and beverage industry. Fast forward a little bit, you finish up at Canisius High School. Tell us a little bit about college, and then sort of tell part of your story. It's amazing. I've had the benefit of talking to you before, but take us into your career and sort of how you built it, and then all of a sudden arrived at one of your crowning achievements, which is Balance Bar.
Sure. So out at Canisius High School, most of the kids in Canisius High School went on to Canisius College or other Catholic colleges. I guess I was a little maverick in that regard, but and it wasn't because I didn't want to go to Catholic college. It was I wanted to be a coach in phys ed. That was sort of the thing I thought I wanted to do at the time. So, and I went to the University of Buffalo. They had a good program in that. And I also played basketball in my freshman year there too. And that was a great experience. But I found out that phys ed wasn't what I really thought it was going to be. I liked the idea of the coaching and working with youth and that kind of thing. But I also, there's a lot of the coursework was stuff that wasn't really up my alley, the things that I really liked: anatomy, physiology, biology, those kinds of courses. And I also found that I didn't thrive that well in my first semester of my freshman year. I did well at Canisius. I was just about in the top half of the class, and but I found that by going to UB, they had girls there. We didn't have any at Canisius High School. And so that was a little bit of a distraction. The basketball was, and just the college life and everything. So, and the phys ed wasn't the major that was ultimately the best way to go. So I actually, and I don't mind telling people this because a lot of times it's great when you can talk about turning failure into success. So I had 3 Fs and 3 Cs, and that was horrendous, So in my freshman first semester, so I decided, well, I'm going to have to do something different. So I had to quit basketball. I didn't play the second semester in basketball. I decided to change majors to business, and I also ended up working about 35 hours a week. So at a local grocery store on Kenmore Avenue near Colvin, and so. I had to really focus on work, school, and it didn't give me enough time to enjoy the college life as much as I might have liked to, but it really taught me a lot about life and everything. So, and I ended up thriving in business administration at UB, and so there we go. So from there, I interviewed with the Grand Union Company, which was a supermarket chain based out of Paterson, New Jersey, and they had stores in central New York, eastern New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and a pretty large chain, and they had a really good program for college graduates, a graduate program, and learning their business and food retailing from a supermarket point of view. So I was with them for 2 years in various phases of their operation, store operations, the buying office, et cetera, warehousing. And so I got to learn that business quite well and enjoyed it. I got to the point after 2 years, and we lived in Utica, New York, Elmira, New York, Waverly, New York, a lot of little towns in central and southern New York State. And then got married when I was in the Utica part of that. And from there, I decided, well, I think I enjoyed that, but I really want to get into selling products into supermarkets and working for one of the companies that does that. So I interviewed with General Foods in New Jersey, and General Foods had various divisions. They had the Maxwell House division, they had the Jell-O division, they had the Post cereal division, they had a Bird's Eye division, and so they had a variety of businesses. So my first interview was with the Maxwell House, and I thought it was going pretty well until he offered me some coffee. And I said, well, I don't drink coffee, but I'll have some water. And he says, well, if you want to work for the Maxwell House division, you really need to drink coffee. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm just not a coffee drinker. So he said, well, we'll have to then conclude the interview. And I said, well, I do like Jell-O, and I know you have a Jell-O division, and that represented minute rice and log cabin syrup and Jell-O and a variety of products. So he said, well, let me give a call to the guy heading up the Jell-O division down the hall. So he calls over, and the guy says, yeah, I'll be glad to interview him. So I went in there, great interview, got the job. So, but I didn't get the coffee job. So I worked in New Jersey, central New Jersey, calling on about 120 different supermarkets in central New Jersey and small wholesalers, learning the business, selling the products in through the supermarkets. And did that for about 2 years. Lived in Lakewood, New Jersey, which is inland from Point Pleasant, Asbury Park. And then I was thinking, well, the next thing I want to do was I'd love to get involved in marketing and putting together the products and programs that these sales guys and the supermarkets, for the products that they sell. So I interviewed with a number of companies, and the one that worked out great for me was Welch's. Welch's was headquartered down in Westfield, New York, 70 miles southwest of Buffalo, right off Lake Erie there. And Welch's is a co-op of 1,600 growers that owns Welch's Grape Juice that started in 1869. And that was a great decision for me. And I ended up being with them longer than any other company in my career, up to then or after that. And so I was with them for 13 years, and I worked my way up. I was in sales promotion, and then marketing as an assistant brand manager, then as a brand manager. And it was, as a brand manager, I worked on the various products that they had, and the company decided they wanted to get into the soft drink business, and they had tested it to be a store or be a broker, going through food brokers and warehouse delivery, but that's not the way to do that. And so I asked to be assigned that product before they buried it, and so I took it on and realized I didn't know a lot about it. So the first thing, I hired a consultant, and he was very helpful in helping me to learn about the best way to go through store-to-door delivery was by using Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola bottlers, which we did. And so it became very successful over about a 2-year period. I licensed 250 Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola bottlers across the 50 states, so I got to travel every city and state across the U.S. and really enjoyed that part, and enjoyed the success of the product and business. And after a number of years doing that, the business was plateauing in terms of Welch's have limited resources in terms of how we could make it go. And so I suggested that we sell the business off to Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, Dr. Pepper. And then Welch's thought it was a good idea. They sold it to Dr. Pepper. They got a nice upfront payment from Dr. Pepper and a nice ongoing royalty from it after that for the Welch's soft drinks. So from there, I went with, I had a number of different offers, but I took the position with Coca-Cola and as a director of market development in Atlanta. We moved to Atlanta from Westfield, New York. And I was in charge of planning and market development for Coke USA. And it was a really great experience, a great company, very successful. and we enjoyed living in Atlanta. After 2 years of doing that, I felt that I sort of plateaued there in terms of didn't see a great future and doing the same thing I could, but it wasn't my nature to want to sit around and not, move ahead. So so the opportunity came to take head up sales and marketing for a company in Ventura, California, which was owned by Philip Morris, and it was 7-Up Foods. And so I did that for a couple of years and was successful doing that. Philip Morris wanted to grow big into the food business as a good way to use some of the tobacco profits and everything. So they decided, though, after about 2 years to sell that business, and they wanted to get into the business in a bigger way and a faster way. So they went out and bought Kraft, and they bought Oscar Mayer. And so then I decided the best opportunity, I wanted to stay in Santa Barbara because we liked it a lot. That's where we lived when I was working at 7-Up Foods. It was about 30 miles away. So decided to do consulting. So I did consulting in the beverage business for, I'd say, about 8 or 9 years. And that leads me up to the Balance Bar. So Balance Bar was a startup company in the nutritional bar business, competing with Flower Bar and Cliff Bar. And I met the owner in the Santa Barbara, the guy that bought it. And he asked me if I'd be on the board. I agreed to be on the board of directors. After about a year, the company was failing, and the board, I would recommend that they sell the business, or get out of the business because they weren't making any money and it wasn't growing at all. So they asked me if I would be willing to run it, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I had no idea how successful we could make it, but here, this was in late '95. And I started in December '95. The business at that point was about $1 million in sales a year, and losing about $1 million. And, so in '96, that was the first full year that I ran it, and we took the business up to 10 million in sales and making money, and then 97 to 40 million in sales, 98, 80 million, 99. A little north of 100 million, and we sold it in late '99 to Kraft for $268 million. So it was quite a ride, and there's a whole story behind that, but we don't have time to get into all of it. But it was sort of an ideal scenario because it used the background and experience that I had and the various things that I had done up till then. And it wasn't like a plan that I had. It was a plan that had sort of presented itself and evolved. And we were successful because of the experience that I had. We were successful because of the people that I brought in. Certainly one person couldn't do that on their own. And so it was a good team effort. We brought in some good key people that I hadn't actually worked with for the most part in the past, but had good experience in the natural foods business and nutritional foods business, and it was a great success, and we enjoyed that very much, and I did well as a part of that and being a shareholder of the company and president and CEO of the business. So that's but as I say, that's a story in itself in terms of how that actually took place and how we built it up like that. But it was
that'll be in our next episode of Conversations with Canisius. I thought I would love to know, though, if there's anything from your time at Canisius, any way Canisius prepared you that you can sort of look back to or point to, that helped make that a big part of your successful life.
I would say that the sense that you got there, that anything was possible, that if you work hard, apply yourself to your studies. I remember doing, in grade school, most kids just sort of float through grade school. I mean, but then all of a sudden in high school, they said you should do about 3 hours of homework a night. You really had to. And so it was that sense of hard work, and then you would be rewarded for that. But you weren't going to get rewarded if you didn't do it, or you weren't going to succeed if you didn't, because you had all these. We had about 200 kids in our class, I'd say, when I was a freshman. And so you weren't going to succeed unless you did do the work. And you had the kids that were smarter than you, and so you either had to outwork them or whatever. So what I got from Canisius was that sense that you could succeed if you work hard, that anything was possible, that I developed a positive attitude. I think that was sort of a thing that from my parents, from the high school, from the coaches, in life. And I think attitude has so much to do with whether you're successful or not. And so at Canisius, that fostered that attitude that if you work hard, play by the rules, and it was a very disciplined environment at Canisius. In grade school, I might tend to goof off with the nuns and that because you were bored a little bit, not because of the nuns, but because you just didn't have to work that hard, so you had time to goof off. But at high school, you couldn't do that. And they wouldn't let you do it even if you wanted to do it, because Father Stern, you might have heard stories about him in the past, but
oh, sure.
you didn't want to visit Father Stern at all. So I would say what Canisius provided was a great education, a great experience with the Jesuits and with the lay teachers that we had there. The sense that you could succeed and it would succeed if you apply yourself, and if anything was possible, and it didn't make any difference what your economic background was, the neighborhood you came from, those kinds of things. It was more up to you. And so I developed this sense that the glass was half full. And we've always believed that, and it's good that I carry through by life in terms of, you can always look for a lot of negative things. And there's things that are going to happen to us in our life, our family, whatever, that aren't good, society. But if you look for the good things and look for the bright things, then I think that'll carry a lot further than dwelling on the negative.
Great. How about some advice for our young alums who are just, starting out in their careers, and anything you could impart onto the young people today is to, help them make them more successful?
Sure. I've got a number of things there that I'd love to share. I think it's helpful if you define success for yourself. And everybody's definition of success is different, so you have to define what it means to you. But to me, it means doing well at what you want to do and enjoy doing. And so, you're not going to be successful if you're not doing what you want to do. And if you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to be successful at it. And so I think they're all important, all three. So that would be success to me, and I would think it would be for most people. And so and don't go by other people's definition of success, or have people tell you, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. I've been told in the past I wasn't a very good salesman, and I wasn't this, and I wasn't that. And sometimes that just gives you the courage to prove people wrong. So I almost like to hear that kind of thing. But that's important. And also don't settle. By that I mean, when I went through my various jobs that I've had, I didn't want to settle. If I got to the point that I feel I was settled, this is good company, I could have a good income and a nice place to live, and it'd be a steady place for our family to live and everything. But I'm not the kind of person to settle in terms of, if it wasn't challenging, and it got to the point where it wasn't, then I wanted to do something else. And so I did it. So that certain amount of self-confidence, and I think part of that was Canisius. I developed the self-confidence there, and also having success in the various things that you do. I've had some failures there, but you're not going to really have success unless you've had some failures, because Because but with the failures, you learn what works and what doesn't work. If you're just always succeeding at the same thing, you might not be trying to broaden yourself as much as you're capable of. So I think another thing that I would advise, if you're going to get married, pick a good wife, because that's critical. I've been married to the same gal, Marcia, for almost 60 years now. So, and it's important, and make sure they're a friend. A friend is an important thing, part of it as you get older. First of all, the physical appeal is, that's important in the beginning, that be there. But the friend thing is something that's more critical in the long term. And somebody that's flexible, because if I had a wife that didn't want to make all these moves, I mean, I'd go home and say, well, we're going to be moving to Atlanta, or we're going to be moving here, or this or that. What do you think of that? She was always willing to take a gamble and to take the next step. So, and that was important, because the old phrase, a happy wife is a happy life. Mm-hmm. So, and that's been true. So I would say that's an important thing. And having a positive attitude, just dwell on the positive. There's enough negativity out there in the world. And but I think there's so many more positive things. And so I think that's important, just to dwell on the positive, understand the negatives, but overcome the negatives and turn them into positives. So that's the advice I give young people.
All great advice. All great advice. And let's talk a little bit about the future. You're retired, but I know from our conversations you are not idle. You have a lot going on. And talk a little bit sort of about what the future holds for Jim Wolfe. What are near-term goals? What are longer-term goals? What are you planning for the future, Jim?
Sure. Well, since I retired back in 2000. And a little bit before that, I was doing volunteer work. But when you're working and raising a family, we have 4 children and 9 grandchildren. We're proud of every one of them. But once I retired, I had a lot of time in my hands, and I figured, well, you could get a little bored playing tennis or golf all the time. So you want to do something that gives more meaning to your life. And those are fun things to do, and I do it. But so I decided to do volunteer work. I was on the board of United Way here locally, on the board of Girl Scouts. I was on the board of the Hillside House and chaired the board for a number of years. Hillside House is a home for 60 wheelchair-bound adults with developmental disabilities. And I also very much got involved in mentoring young children, and I still do that. Minority children, Hispanic, mostly in the Santa Barbara area based on the population. And working with kids on a one-on-one, sort of like a big brother, big sister program. I chaired the advisory board for that program and been mentoring kids for over 20 years. I've also done international volunteer consulting, business consulting, spending a couple of weeks in various countries. In Ukraine, Poland, Azerbaijan, Kenya, Sri Lanka, Russia, and I really enjoyed that because that used the experience that I had in business and helping small businesses over there, and that was very, very fulfilling. And I'm also right now I'm involved with a shelter that really. It's called the Virgil Credential Center, and it's through the mission here at Santa Barbara. And we have Franciscans there, but we feed the homeless in the parks 3 days a week. I'm involved in one day. You put together the meals with a group of people, and then you go out in the parks and feed the homeless. We end up feeding about 180 homeless every Wednesday. And that it's very eye-opening. I enjoy doing that, enjoy meeting those people. I'm trying to get to know them a little bit, understanding how they got there, what their issues are, and I wish I could, as time goes on, I'll get to know them a little bit better in that regard. but it gives you a whole different perspective on people that are homeless, that are in the parks and everything. And they don't always fit the stereotype that we have of people like that, so it's, and for the most part, they're very gracious and very wonderful people. And we're thankful for everything we do. So I guess ultimately, and this is part of my Jesuit upbringing, my Catholic upbringing, is to, when you've been blessed with much, to give back. And I find that it's not really work, it's really fulfilling. I enjoy it, and I would miss doing any of those things that I have done or want to continue to do. So that's what I do on a philanthropic point of view, and I certainly give money to various nonprofits that I've been involved with. My wife and I enjoy traveling. We traveled a good part of the world, and we continue to travel, and we enjoy doing that. So the future, seeing our children, grandchildren, continuing nonprofit work, living a full life. We've been blessed with good health, a great place to live. We miss Buffalo. We have a lot of family still there, cousins, relatives, friends, and we go back every year. So Buffalo's always home, but this is our second home, and we love that too. So.
Well, it's really wonderful to hear that, all these years later, you're still living the mission of Canisius High School, and, you and your wife are spending so much time giving back and, living a life of significance through service to others. And it's just admirable, and you're an inspiration. So thank you for joining us today and sharing. I mean, I feel like we could do this for hours and learn more. And we just got a little bit of sort of taste of your career today, Jim, but it was really nice for you to share your story, and please stay in touch. And I look forward to a time and either you're back in Buffalo or I'm out in California, and we can learn more.
I'd love to do that. Thanks, Andy. Appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Great to see you, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.